Hello and welcome to the Record Club, brought to you by Record Store Day, the official charts and National Album Day, and proudly in association with Bowers Wilkins. My name is Jess Izzat, and I'm excited to say that we are back. And our guest today is Black Honey, talking about their fourth album, Soak. If you have hung out with us here before, you will know that we're going to be spending the next half an hour or so talking to Izzy from Black Honey all about the new record, and then we'll be putting forward some of your questions about the album for her to answer. So, if you want to get involved, drop us a question in the comments section below. I'll be asking a selection of them in the second half of our chat. And on top of that, one lucky person who sends in a question will be randomly selected to win a pair of Bowers Wilkins PX7 Season 2 over-ear noise cancelling headphones. And the album sounds great in them, so don't miss out. Get your questions to us. If you haven't already got yourself a physical copy like me of the album, then we thoroughly recommend that you order one from your local record store once our chat with the band is over. But first, let's get straight into this week's Record Club and say a big hello to Izzy from Black Honey. How are we feeling?
Hi, I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited to get this because this literally landed at my flat today, and I already saw the artwork being shared, but I feel like it looks even better on the record. Is this you?
It is,
Just
yes.
to confirm.
Have you all
Um,
made stunts?
because I was like, I'm gonna ask her about this, and like, if you're like, oh yeah, we just found this picture and I really liked it. Talk to me about the artwork.
So it's basically inspired by the scene in Clockwork Orange by Stanley Kubrick, and the original scene that they did was they were desensitizing him to violence and trying to like reprogram his brain to like correctionally make him a better person. But I feel like my spin on that is about something to do with like being a voyeur in today's weird universe that we're trying to move through.
Yeah, I saw a Clockwork Orange a really long time ago, and when you're just like, there is so much of this that I very clearly like didn't understand at the time, and I feel like pieces sort of come back to me. Um, did you sort of like purposefully, because I know that you have always sort of taken influence from the silver screen when it comes to your albums, like, did you go out like searching for that, or did you watch it and think that's what I want to do? Or did the music come first and then you were like, you know what, I kind of want to marry that idea and the visuals and pull it all together? What sort of came first?
Definitely the music. I always have it with albums where I make the album first and then I freak out about like how the hell am I going to make a cover for this? And I find it actually quite an intimidating prospect. Like, how are you supposed to summarize 10, like 12 nuanced thoughts of songs and like explorations into like one singular piece of art? It's actually just like quite a lot, isn't it? So I
Mm.
feel like I start with the music and then do the art. But there's also this famous photographer that I also referenced for this piece called Alex Praga, or maybe it's Prager, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. But she basically does like hyper characterizations of like people and like surrealist setups, and she's got a series on people's eyes where she's done like super tight close-ups in that frame. So I sort of mixed the idea of like voyeurism referencing Kubrick with this sort of like staging and theatre of Alex Praga. On her ones that she makes, they're like really high, like contrast with shadows in a lot.
Mm.
And that I decided that I wanted to do a flat version of it. And the other thing is that hers are all actually shot on film, whereas ours is digital, and we tried to make it look like it was film afterwards. So that was quite a long-winded process to try and, at first it was sort of overly airbrushed and like too perfect, and sort of trying to explain to everyone, no, I want my eye bags to stay in a bit, and I want you to see the makeup being crusty, and the drip is not actually my eye crying. It's like from these pipettes that you had to drop into the eye to keep it wet whilst you were shooting, which is
Mm.
what they did in the original film. There's like documentary behind the scenes where Kubrick's doing that with the actor, but I didn't actually think I wasn't wearing it for that long. I think we shot the whole piece in like half an hour.
I think that sort of goes with like you knowing what you wanted from it. But it's funny how all of this is sort of like marrying up as well. Even just that, where you were like, I want it to be less airbrushed. I feel like even cameras these days, like airbrush on purpose, or like even your phones, you can see it like doing it when it focuses and it finds a face. It would
Yeah.
do that as well. So it's crazy that it's become more of a process because you sort of had to like strip that back again. Um,
With the
did it
music
hurt?
also, I think like with AI you can correct and perfect anything. So the only way that art's going to move forward in the world now is by exploring the humanity and the human error and the mistakes and the mess ups and everything. So I think like that was an important part of this process. Like when we made the record, we decided to come off click, which is a really brave move because usually if you make all of your life harder if you come off click. But now um we have this like new capability now where we can beat map stuff, which without going into like the nuance of it means that we can basically all still play together and add things in the same way, but we're not like perfectly timed and we're not like regimented to a click. So there's more humanity to the sound, and that's like was a very important part of like what we were making with this one, like leaving the harmonies that were a bit out of tune. And I tested like what happens if we do make them tidy and straighten them all out and evenly out all the words, and I did that and it just actually lost a lot of its like character. So it's kind of just like learning to add those things in, um to celebrate them, not treating anything like a sort of correctional project, but more like I let them leave in the mistakes kind of project.
Is that something like that you discussed with the producer? Like, did your producer maybe suggest that as an option to keep it more live sounding, or is that something that you just knew going into the process? You were like, I want to do this without a click, and we're gonna try and like work out how we're gonna do that in the studio.
I think like we'd done an experiment once before where we made a cover of Wild Thing for a TV series last year, and the premise of that was we just like roughly sketched it out, went in, recorded it all live, all off clip, and we actually ended up loving what we made, and we went with the desk bounce, which is also quite a rare thing to do. We didn't get it professionally mixed or anything. We went with the sketchy version, and I think from that process we'd kind of just rehearsed a lot of the artistic approaches that we wanted to take into the production. Obviously by the end of it I feel like I was still like, I get really bad demo-itis, so I think I was still chasing the demos. Like there's a huge screaming part of my soul that says that all demos are better than all songs ever. Like I sort of have a theory that I'm floating there where I'm like, maybe that's just like the truth, and like maybe all demos are just more honest. It's sort of like trying to redraw a drawing that you drew when you were just like in a subconscious state. It's almost impossible to recreate stuff. But obviously with real drums, everything sounds nicer. So it's like that mixture of like trying to keep the original demo elements in as well as, anyway, I'm going off on a massive tangent, but yeah, the process has been like roughly the loose coming off click and off grid, and then also at the end trying to like uh honor what was beautiful about the demos for us in the first
Mm.
place.
You know what? I've never heard of demo-itis before, but I think as someone who works in new music and listens to a lot of demos early on, I think I also suffer from a similar thing.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, I'm just like, hang on, this is not the raw cut version that I heard first. And I'm really happy for you being it squeaky clean and stuff, but also that's not how you sound. Anyway, um, matter of opinion, I guess. I don't know. Um, Okay, let's talk about the track listing and sort of like where this album began for you, because obviously you're no stranger to an album. So, has it been long in the making, and like which track was the first that was written, or have some of them been in the locker for a while?
Good question. This was definitely the first album where I felt like I finally understand the kind of cohesion thing that everyone talks about. Or do you remember when people say like, "Oh, it's just a photograph of a snapshot in time"? I never fully understood that. Whereas now I think I do, because I feel like I curated elements and I wrote a lot of songs for this album, but I feel like um I took a more of a curatorial approach to like how I wanted the finished collection to feel like in cohesion with each other. Which is hard in a way because there's a lot of songs that I'm like very attached to still in the demo bank. But the first song, I think it was maybe Psycho that I wrote, or actually Vampire in the Kitchen. I think I wrote the version of that maybe like 3 years ago, maybe two. I think one thing that people often don't really talk about on the internet, I find, is like people always sort of act like they've written something last month, whereas like in reality, everyone's written it at least 2 to 3 years ago. So it takes that long to like process everything through mixing, production, mastering, and stuff. I mean, I do it too. I like put songs. I save my stories from 2 years ago, and then I post the story a month before I drop the song, and then it sort of seems more like you're doing it then and there, but sort of part of the showbiz thing, isn't it?
Keeping it in the moment and keeping that, I don't know, I guess
I just
the
love it how like rappers
online
can
buzz.
yeah, I love how like rappers can just like write a song and then they'll just like drop it the next day. Like I really envy that. I wish that we could do that.
Oh, it's annoying because the way you say that your brain works in terms of how you like your music to sound, it almost feels like you could do that, but then I guess that's the business side of showbiz.
Also, my production is terrible, so like you would be subject to some pretty horrific production, like if you actually like listen to what I
Look, if
make.
you're taking it straight from the desk, I don't see why not. Jump in the studio, someone bounce it for you. Let's talk about Vampire in the Kitchen because you mentioned that one. I think I don't know. I keep switching, but it's low key kind of my favorite in a way.
Oh,
I
thanks.
feel like I don't know. I feel like it's got this real lean in moment. Like we were talking about like the sort of demo like phase. It feels like it's like a real like intimate moment until that huge guitar moment, which just makes me think that not only can this be intimate, but then also anthemic. Yeah, talk to me about it.
That one we actually did use the vocals from the original demo, because it was recorded in a kitchen, which felt appropriate. Um, and I went to bed and woke up the next day, and my producer just put the ending on, and for the first, and it was really, really hair metal, like eye watering, like very glam hair rock shred. Awful sound. So it was a sample as well. It was horrible, and I hated it so much. And I was like, why have you just ruined our really good song? And then slowly over time, I desensitized myself to the experience of it and was like, "Ah, kind of love the horrible guitar shred." And then we had this really weird crisis where we were like, if we're going to do the shred, we've got to commit to the bit. And we get in the studio to make that section, and we're like, if we make it live, and then we were worried, like, oh my god, does it sound like too earnest? Does it sound like there's not any like cheekiness in it? Like, does it sound like so earnest? But then, like, we kind of left Chris's guitar in, which he still is like adamant that it's the worst take of that, and he's like it's sloppy, like nothing is accurate because he's trying to do the actual tapping and everything, you know. But we loved it because the shitty version was kind of like that's the Black Honey in us. Do you know what I mean? That's the bit that I like connected with. So that yeah, that's kind of how that song came to fruition. I guess maybe symbolically, I sort of see that ending as the intrusive thoughts.
Coming in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, which tune then? I don't know if this is going to be the same answer, but actually probably not because that one was the demo. But which tune would you say changed the most from demo phase to the finished product?
So interesting. I feel like Dead, but then a lot of them are really similar because of my chronic demoitis that I suffer with. Um, I guess like Sad Sun kind of came alive in a new way that felt really exciting. Whereas Dead, I 100% stand by the demo was better than what we made. And I'm sad about that most days. I feel like I lost something in the process, and I don't know what it is, but it's gone now, and that's fine. Sometimes you have to like take the wins and the losses, and like I think Sad Sun gained something, whereas like Dead lost something. But I guess we move forward.
It's kind I don't know. I feel like maybe it's apt for the title of the tune, but I noticed a comment on Dead actually, and I went back, rewound, but like someone said that it feels like some of your earlier singles, and I was like, oh yeah, there is a bit of a nostalgic tinge for I don't know, like maybe Teenager or Sleep Forever era. What do you make of something like that? Because obviously it's a new album, but like kind of reminiscent of the earlier stuff.
Yeah, I think that's really accurate, and I think where how I see in my journey is like album one was a mess, and like what we should have done for album one we didn't do for like a lot of politically reasons that I kind of can't talk about, but that's fine. I came back with album two with what I wanted to make, and I'm pleased with that one. And then album three was like some of it was like I don't know, I think I'm doing an impression of someone else, and then album four feels like I've gone back to who I was at the beginning and managed to like keep that precious and bring it in, and in that same breath I've like also expanded something in like texture and vibe, and it's like this album's been less commercially successful so far than the other two, but I kind of don't really care. I'm just really proud of it, proud that I managed to hark back to that early me.
Um, is there a surprising fan favorite on this lineup? I mean, obviously, there's a lot of love for the singles, but is there one that you're like, I'm not really sure how people are going to receive that, but yet you've got a lot of love for it?
Yeah, definitely Vampire was one of them. Because it's a weird arrangement, isn't it? And then also Medication.
Mm.
I'm so nervous about that one still because part of me thinks like, oh, like I'm very like feeling sorry for myself, emo in that one, and it's against my nature to play like almost victim in that setting, and so like listening to it now or when I replay it now I'm like, oh my god, I feel so sorry for myself in the lyrics. So I'm like, oh, it's like maybe not the most attractive quality of mine there showing myself, but maybe that's just like, I guess, part of what's being human and exploring everything. I don't know.
I know how you feel with
um
that. It's hard to like because you obviously write stuff in your own moment and especially in the moment that you're feeling it. And then to like share yourself feeling sorry for yourself is like, oh no. But people will relate to that, and that's probably why it's up there as a fan favorite. Is there any tune on this? I can see that there's lots of people getting involved with their questions. Don't want to ask one prematurely or steal it, but I do like to ask this because obviously when I'm listening to an album that I love, like sometimes it's nice to know whether one like almost didn't make it onto the record for whatever reason, but we still have it. So which one was that for you?
to the Grave. To the Grave was like a hard cut. This album, I think, was supposed to be less songs on it. By the end, we actually just like ended up cutting all the ones that we made, because it was really it gave such everyone was giving us such mixed feelings about it. But then we realized that we didn't have anything with like a driving, jiving kind of hand jive, which is what I always have like a bit of that in each record. Um, and so that having that in the mix on the last 3 days of listening, we were like, actually the album needs it. It needs it for like context, otherwise it's just like a bit too obscure and off kilt. So sometimes it's just down to like the drums and the feel, but also like in hindsight I do really like that song. I'm actually really pleased it made it on.
Yeah, for sure. I can see that Rebecca has got involved on our Instagram saying, how's your songwriting or sound evolved over the course of 4 albums?
So I think first album I can split into like two fragments: the pre album one, and then the album one that we made that was like a double album, but with like everything that I was kind of exploring at the time. Then and it went to pop, and that's fine. Like in hindsight, it's fine, part of the process. Do you know what I mean? But like our fans know that we went awry there, but I still stand by that as part of the journey, which is cool. And then album 2 was like comeback. Really wanted something people could like stomp around to and like kick up dust with. Ironically, happening in the middle of lockdown, which was really weird. Obviously, like I wrote something called Disinfect before lockdown, and then we get into lockdown, and everyone was like, "Did you write that about the pandemic?" I was like, "No, I wrote this before." That was weird. And then album 3 felt like I wanted to explore like my impression of like what would be a massive, what do you want to just lose yourself in at a festival, or like what would a big stage suit, or like what would what do people want to like bellow to, but maybe it's like in the POV of like a woman. And the sound there was like larger rock music. Maybe it was more boring rock, arguably like middle of the road potentially, in my opinion. I don't know if I'm being too harsh on myself there.
You're being incredibly self-deprecating.
And then album 4 is like textures is like the main thing, and like layering the vocals like so much more than I like, realizing that like a lot of my greatest pop songs have like so much textures and layers, more than you think, or more than you can necessarily pick out with a human ear, but it all adds to the overall like experience of a song. Just the same as having like little hidden percussion stuff and little weird tensions, and I think that having a really textured vocal is like what I really cracked on this one.
Do you, when you record in the studio, the layers, do you record them separately, or were they all, yeah, so you can like sort
We
of
do them literally one at a time, so some days you'll be there for the whole day and just singing one line all day.
so we're like more textures, and the engineer's like, okay, we've got another day of textured layering.
Yeah, but there's like different ways that everyone describes them. So they'll be like the double pan breathy, so you're like, okay, so if we're doing a double pan, it's like 2 breathies that side, 2 breathies that side, so you know what you're doing. Then you'll be like, well, we need to add some more tone in, so you try and like pull a bit more of a like lower baritone voice, which my voice doesn't do very well. So like I have to do more of the textury breathy stuff really. If I want to build the tone out in the lower end, I'll start layering the boys' voices, or like maybe I'll like bring a girlfriend in who's got a really full deep voice. That was what was fun about doing our live session, was like having loads of women with like fuller voices that I could like use in conjunction with mine, because I feel so frustrated and the limitations of my voice as my instrument, as like a kind of person that writes music and composes all breadth of things. I love working with women with big voices. I mean, I write a lot of this of, I don't know if you know her, Charlotte OC.
Yes,
I write
yeah,
a lot with her. She does like a whole song in one take, and it's like her voice is
that's a
amazing,
talent.
and like yeah, I just love watching her, and like my songs sound amazing when she sings them. Do you know what I mean? But like I get so frustrated with like how my voice sings, even though I do love my voice. It's taken me this long to like learn to love it. Do you know what I mean?
This is such an insight into your brain. Right, we've got some more questions. So out on the record clubs, Twitter said, or X, are you looking forward to taking the album on tour? And what's the most unexpected or memorable thing that's happened at a show?
I'm really looking forward to taking this album on tour. We have toured it this little install week thingy that we just did, but and we are playing Brighton tomorrow, and we're going to play some of it. And then for the February tour, we want to do this set, but we also want to add in like Sad Sun and all of the like bangers that we kind of like didn't get time to learn properly for this tour. And then unexpected thing of, I mean, a lot of unexpected things do happen on tour. The thing that surprises me the most is like when fans like gift me weird things, and I keep everything like like sometimes people will like write me like entire like novels of books and give me them, and I will just read the whole thing front to back and keep it in my memory box. And like hand crochet teddies and stuff, like I love a good teddy.
You're now going to get
Signing
loads of
weird things.
teddies.
Yeah. I mean, we signed a sanitary pad once. People have been talking about that a lot recently on the gram. Yeah. I don't know, like the weirdest stuff that happens is like in my own band when everyone's like doing weird shit in the van on the way home, like when someone's like trying to balance like a Malteser on their forehead in the van. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, great. Okay. Yeah. Well, I guess if you melt it a little bit, then maybe that would be a bit easier. I'm not sure. I don't know what the techers are.
Thanks for your
Yeah.
feedback. I'll pass it on.
There we go. Right. We have Vic on the Record Club's Instagram. He says, is there one particular lesson that you've learned whilst making the album that you want to take forward in the future?
Can you repeat the question again? Sorry.
Is there a particular lesson that you've learned whilst making this album that you want to take forward in future?
Yeah. I think it's definitely following the feeling of a song more rather than trying to steer the feeling with the lyric. So like understanding the like intention and like tonality kind of do half of the job for you, or you can also let that do most of the job for you. And then also I will be doing more textured vocals again. I'm really happy with how they've worked. I'm interested by like the success to me was like finding metaphors of like more nuanced stuff rather than like I think before I was trying to like point state or like trying to say things as they were, whereas now I'm a bit more like, oh, what's the like way that it hasn't been said, or like what's an unusual exploration of an idea.
Oh, now more Easter eggs. That means, I reckon, for fans to like
Yeah.
uncover and tuck into. Look, Izzy, thank you so much, and everyone, obviously, for your questions. That is all we have time for today. Obviously, we've loved having you, Black Honey, on to join us. Make sure, of course, to get your hands on a physical copy of Soak. I've got mine now. Now that this episode is over, and support your local record store, go nab one from there. Also, before we leave, I'm excited to announce that the winner of this week's Bowers and Wilkins Wireless Headphones prize is Vic on the Record Club's Instagram. So yeah, if you could slide into the Record Club's DMs, we'll get those headphones to you. My name's Jess Izzat. Thanks everyone for joining us, sending in your questions. This and all previous episodes are available to watch back on Spotify or YouTube. We have Nova Twins next week on the show. But for now, Izzy from Black Honey, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.